Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's week 13, and I found something we could talk about this week. So, besides the fact that this past week was the first day of fall, which is very exciting, and we've actually had some pretty good fall weather. It's actually sprinkling right now. I'm sitting under my umbrella for a little outside table, but I realized that I hadn't really talked about like my 90s movies countdown in quite a few weeks, and it just so happened that this week one of the movies was a Goofy movie, so I thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about Goofy a little bit, and so I looked up facts about him to see if there's anything I didn't know, and there was a couple of things. I'm going to try to make this video pretty short because today is Sunday, actually, the end of week 13, and this week I was busy with life and getting ready for Night of Hope, which I had last night, which went well, and nothing really out of the ordinary training-wise. It's pretty basic. My allergies, which I thought had gone away, decided to come back, so I'm still dealing with crud in my throat, and so that made my Saturday run not super fun, but I got the miles that I wanted to in, and you know, we're on to the next. But for this week, we're talking about Goofy. So just real quick, and I looked up some pictures that I'll insert here for my different facts. I wanted to like share these while I was on my Saturday run, but it didn't work out. But I looked up 13 facts for week 13, so we'll just go through these real quick, just for fun. So the first one, and a lot of people may know, but Goofy first debuted May 25th of 1932 in Mickey's Revue. His original name was Dippy Dog, which is why, even though there was a rumor for a while that Goofy was a cow, his origination was Dippy Dog. Last name being Dog, he's a dog. He briefly was Goofy. He went from the Dippy Dog name was called Goofy starting in 1934 Orphans Benefit. And then around in the 1950s they changed him again for a little bit, made him a little bit more sophisticated, and his name was George Geef or Geef. I don't know how you pronounce it. And he went back to, I forgot to look at the year for this, but when they started making the how-to shorts, the short little films, that's when he officially went back and has forever since been Goofy. Alright, number 6. Pinto Colvig was the first voice of Goofy. He also voiced Grumpy and Sleepy in Seven Dwarfs, and he is responsible for the famous Goofy laugh, the yuck. He is responsible for that. Fact number 7. Several others have voiced Goofy. He is now voiced by Bill Farmer. Bill Farmer has been doing it since 1987, which is when I was born, so he's been doing it for 35 years. Okay, fact number 8. He has a very extensive family tree. There was like a list of, gotta been like 10 or 15 different like aunts and uncles, you know, such and such Goof, whatever. And of course we all know Max Goof, which is his son. And you see, and he wasn't called Max in the George GIF or GIF time period, but you do see a little Goof Jr. in those cartoons, and we get to introduce him as Max Goof in the Goof Troop, and then of course the Goofy movies. And he did have a wife during the George phase. You never see her face, but most suspect that Goofy became a widower, and there was, I think, an episode during Goof Troop that I read where he actually says something to the effect of, to Max, that his mom is in the heavens or in the stars or something, and so that just leads to that he was married, but she passed away. Fact number 9. Animators claim Goofy wears an 18.5 size shoe, and that is the size of the shoe on the costume that you see at the parks. That's how big that foot is. I remember when I saw Goofy which probably wasn't the first time I'd seen Goofy in my life, but as an adult, however a couple years ago when I went, I think it was for Not Princess 2021, that trip is when we went to Chef Mickey's, and, well no, maybe it was, I can't remember now, time has run together, but anyway, when Goofy came into Chef Mickey's, I remember thinking, he is very tall, and you have to be at least 6 feet. I don't think I have this on my list, but you have to be at least 6 feet tall in order to qualify to play Goofy. I did read that. Fact number 10, he's the official mascot for the French Olympic team. Fact number 11, he was also the mascot for Disney River Country. Number 12, the first piece of merch Goofy was on was a deck of playing cards, and he was, of course, the Joker card. And our last fact, fact number 13, he has a house at Disneyland. I've never been to Disneyland, hoping to get into those Disneyland races when they come back, very excited. But Goofy's house is in Toontown. He also has rides that include Goofy's Sky School, which is in Disneyland, and the Barnstormer, which is in Disney World. So there's 13 facts about Goofy. If there's any other fun facts you know about him that I maybe didn't read, share them in the comments. So the other thing I wanted to make sure I got in this week, because it was very special, our MEB lesson. Let me get over to the right page. Okay, so we're on marathon number 12 for week 13, and this is the 2009 New York City Marathon on November 1st, 2009. And what makes this special is this is the first race that he placed first. And it's a whole thing, and you really, really should get this book so you can read everything in each of these stories, because I don't want to give it away. But the key lesson is set long-term goals and never let go of those dreams. And that's the lesson for this one, because I mean, it was a long time coming. And he mentions in here that, you know, almost a year prior to this marathon, he almost thought of retiring. That maybe, you know, that winning a marathon just wasn't in the cards for him. And he talks about being so glad that he didn't. But besides telling the story of the New York City Marathon and everything that went down during that race, he shares some good tips for making goals. So I was going to share those. And he shares a list of criteria that include, it requires you to increase or improve upon what you are currently capable of. It can be quantified or otherwise stated so that you know if you've reached it. It requires intermediate steps so that you know how you're progressing toward it. It has a date by which you hope to achieve it. It is personally meaningful to you. And he talks about each of those and how important they are. One thing that he does say that I definitely wanted to share too is how, and I think anyone this is my first time training for a marathon, but anyone that's previously trained for one know that there are days that aren't easy. And if the goal isn't personal to you, when you hit obstacles, it's going to be hard to stay motivated. And that's what he shares in here. It has to be something that will motivate you to keep working, to have hope, to keep planning and pushing and persevering when things get difficult. Because things will get difficult. The bigger your goal, the longer it will probably take to achieve, and the more likely it is you'll hit obstacles along the way. Only if your goal is something that really speaks to you will you find a way around those obstacles and keep moving, however slowly and meanderingly, towards accomplishing it. So he, then he shares the story of his marathon, which it's amazing. And he talks about how, throughout the rest of his career, that one race is one thing that he always goes back to and is so proud that he achieved. What he says in here is, I've said how winning New York was a dream of mine for years. How do you maintain hope that your long-term goals can come true? How do you keep working toward them even when it seems like they're getting more out of reach, not closer? I can tell you from my experience that the key is what I talked about at the beginning of this chapter, setting the right goals. You'll know when you've hit on the right ones. They're the ones that will still call to you no matter how challenging things get. They're the ones that make your life better just by chasing them. So, I know for me, my goal for this training cycle, I really want to try to do that 5.5 hour marathon. I feel like it could be achievable, but like I mentioned last week, going into next week, this is all unknown territory. And while it seems like a slow increase each week, it's an increase nonetheless, and it's terrain I have not navigated before, but I have great friends, and We'll see, but I do, really my overall goal is to be able to complete the Goofy Challenge, both those races, have the best time doing it, and I really loved being able to cross the finish line with my sister. So, and I mean, she thinks that I shouldn't try to do that for my marathon because she might be moving a little slower than me, but part of what makes it special is getting to experience it with her. So, Katie, if you're watching this, no matter what, I don't care how slow we may be going, I want to cross that marathon finish line with you, just like I did my half. So I got these wonderful pictures and wonderful memories. But those are, my marathon here, that's my quantitative, if that's a word, my number goal, but then my experience goal is to be able to finish with friends and family right there. It'll be such an amazing time. And I actually do have some short-term goals that are actually coming up fairly quick that I don't know that I've talked about on here yet, but that'll be for a couple weeks from now that I'll talk about those. I hope everyone's training is going well. This week was a little rough, but I got 15 miles next week, and after these next few weeks, things are gonna get shaken up a little bit. I've had to rearrange a few things, so I can't wait to get into how I'm having to change a few things to get around the holidays, because I know that can be a hard time when you get all those higher miles and they happen right at Thanksgiving and right at Christmas, or I guess that last one was right before Christmas, but I know that I keep repeating what I've heard my sister say, and I know she said it on their Mouse Gen channel, is you gotta respect the distance, and you don't want to miss or try to skip some of those long runs. You don't want to do it. So it'll be fun to share how I'm navigating all of that coming up. Always remember that you are God's masterpiece, and I am looking forward to sharing some fun things next week on our 15-mile run. I'll see you then.